What if I told you that everything in the Bible, every prophecy, every promise, every divine revelation finds its foundation in just 5 books? The Pentateuch isn't merely ancient history, it's the prophetic blueprint of God's eternal plan for humanity. From the moment sin entered through Adam's disobedience to the cosmic promise of redemption, these books reveal mysteries that echo through eternity. Here lies the DNA of covenant, the architecture of salvation, and the roadmap to understanding God's heart. Moses didn't just write history, he penned prophecy that would unfold across millennia. These 5 books are the master key that unlocks every other scripture, the foundation stone upon which the entire biblical narrative stands. Without Genesis through Deuteronomy, the rest of the Bible becomes an incomplete puzzle. Today, we begin this extraordinary journey with Genesis, the book of beginnings that holds the seeds of every divine promise yet to be fulfilled. The Pentateuch is crucial because it establishes God's character, His covenants, His laws, and His redemptive plan that culminates in Christ. In the beginning, there was nothing but darkness and emptiness. Then God spoke. The first chapter of Genesis tells us that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. With just His voice, God brought light into existence. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and He separated the light from the darkness. Day by day, God shaped the world. He separated the sky from the waters, gathered the seas, and made dry land appear. Plants sprouted from the ground, trees bore fruit, and flowers bloomed. The sun, moon, and stars filled the sky to mark days and seasons. Fish swam in the oceans, birds soared through the air, and animals roamed the earth. But God wasn't finished yet. On the 6th day, He did something special. Genesis chapter 1 verse 27 says, "So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God He created them. Male and female He created them. God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. This man became Adam, the first human being." Then in Genesis chapter 2, we see God create a beautiful garden called Eden. Now the Lord God had planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there He put the man He had formed. This wasn't just any garden. It was perfect. Rivers flowed through it, every tree was pleasant to look at, and the tree of life stood in the middle. God placed Adam there to take care of it. God saw that it wasn't good for man to be alone, so He caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, took one of his ribs, and from it made a woman. When Adam woke up and saw her, he was overjoyed. "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh," he said. She became his wife, Eve. They lived together in perfect harmony with God, with each other, and with all creation. They felt no shame, even though they were naked, because everything was pure and good. Life in Eden was perfect until something terrible happened. Genesis chapter 3 introduces us to a cunning serpent who approached Eve with a question that would change everything. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" God had given Adam and Eve freedom to eat from every tree in the garden except one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He had warned them clearly, "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." But the serpent twisted God's words. He told Eve, "You will not certainly die. For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve looked at the fruit. It seemed good for food and pleasing to her eyes. She took some and ate it, then gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. Immediately everything changed. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. For the first time, they felt shame and fear. When they heard God walking in the garden, they hid among the trees. God called out, "Where are you?" He wasn't asking because he didn't know. He was giving them a chance to confess. But instead of taking responsibility, Adam blamed both Eve and God himself. "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Eve blamed the serpent. The consequences were severe. God told the serpent it would crawl on its belly and eat dust. To Eve, he said childbirth would be painful. To Adam, he explained that the ground would be cursed. Growing food would require hard work, and thorns and weeds would make farming difficult. Most serious of all, death entered the world. "For dust you are, and to dust you will return," God told Adam. But even in this dark moment, God showed mercy. He made clothes from animal skins to cover them and promised that one day someone from Eve's descendants would defeat the serpent. Then God said, "The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat, and live forever." So God sent them out of Eden, placing cherubim with flaming swords to guard the way back to the tree of life. As years passed, people multiplied on the earth, but they didn't follow God's ways. Genesis chapter 6 tells us that the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Violence filled the earth, and people forgot about their Creator. This broke God's heart. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. He decided to start over, but there was one man who stood out from all the rest, Noah. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. While everyone else lived wickedly, Noah walked with God. God spoke to Noah with specific instructions. "I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you." God told Noah to build an ark, a massive boat unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high, with rooms inside and covered with pitch to make it waterproof. Noah was also to bring 2 of every kind of animal and 7 pairs of every clean animal, along with food for everyone. Noah obeyed completely. For years, he worked on this enormous project while people probably mocked him, but Noah did everything just as God commanded him. When the ark was finished, God told Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation." Genesis chapter 7 describes what happened next. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. Rain poured down for 40 days and 40 nights. Water covered even the highest mountains. Every living thing that moved on land perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. But inside the ark, Noah and his family were safe. For 150 days, the waters flooded the earth. Then God remembered Noah and caused a wind to blow over the earth, and the waters began to recede. The ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah sent out a raven and then a dove to see if the water had gone down. The first time, the dove found no place to rest and returned. 7 days later, the dove came back with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. 7 days after that, the dove didn't return at all. It had found dry ground. When they finally left the ark, Noah built an altar and offered sacrifices to God. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures, as I have done." God placed a rainbow in the clouds as a sign of his promise never to destroy the earth by flood again. After the flood, Noah's descendants began to multiply and spread across the earth. At first, Genesis chapter 11 tells us, "Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. People traveled together and settled in a plain in the land of Shinar, where they decided to stay. But instead of spreading out and filling the earth as God had commanded, they made a different plan. 'Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth.' They wanted to build something so impressive that people would remember them forever. They weren't content with simple homes or even a basic city. They wanted a tower that would reach up to heaven itself, a monument to their own greatness. They used bricks instead of stone and tar instead of mortar, and they began their ambitious project with great enthusiasm. But God saw what they were doing, and he wasn't pleased. The Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. Their problem wasn't the building itself, it was their pride and their refusal to obey God's command to fill the earth. They wanted to stay together and make themselves famous instead of honoring God and following his plan. God said, "If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them." Their unity and disobedience would only lead to greater rebellion against God, so he decided to act. "Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so they will not understand each other," God said. Suddenly, the people who had been working together so smoothly couldn't understand what their neighbors were saying. Confusion spread throughout the construction site. Workers couldn't coordinate their efforts. Instructions became meaningless noise. The great building project ground to a halt. So the Lord scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. What they had feared most, being scattered, happened because of their disobedience. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From Babel, people groups spread in different directions, each developing their own culture and way of life. What started as an act of judgment became part of God's plan to fill the earth with diverse nations and peoples, each with their own language and homeland. Many generations after Babel, in the city of Ur, lived a man named Abram. His father Terah had 3 sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran died young, leaving behind a son named Lot. Genesis chapter 11 tells us that Abram married Sarai, but Sarai was childless because she was not able to conceive. Terah decided to move his family from Ur to Canaan, but they stopped along the way in a place called Haran and settled there. After Terah died, something amazing happened. God spoke directly to Abram with a call that would change his life forever. Genesis chapter 12 records God's words, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." This was an incredible promise, especially since Abram was already 75 years old and had no children. But God was asking him to leave everything familiar, his homeland, his relatives, his father's house, and go to a place he had never seen. Most people would have found excuses or asked for more details, but Abram's response was simple. He obeyed. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all their possessions, and the servants they had acquired in Haran. They packed up their entire lives and started walking toward an unknown destination, trusting that God would guide them. When they reached Canaan, God appeared to Abram again and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." Even though Abram didn't have any children yet, God was promising that his descendants would inherit this beautiful land. Abram built an altar there to worship the Lord. They continued traveling through the land, and Abram built altars and called on the name of the Lord wherever they went. But then a famine struck the land, forcing them to go down to Egypt for food. This created a problem. Sarai was so beautiful that Abram feared the Egyptians might kill him to take her as a wife. So Abram asked Sarai to say she was his sister instead of his wife. When they arrived in Egypt, Pharaoh's officials saw Sarai's beauty and brought her into Pharaoh's palace. Pharaoh treated Abram well because of her, giving him sheep, cattle, donkeys, servants, and camels. But God protected Sarai by inflicting serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household. When Pharaoh realized what had happened, he called Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife?" He immediately sent them away with all their possessions. Abram and Lot returned to Canaan, both now wealthy with large flocks and herds. But their success created a new problem. There wasn't enough land for both of their animals to graze. Arguments broke out between their herdsmen, and Abram realized they needed to separate. Being the older and wiser man, Abram gave Lot first choice of where to settle. "Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Lot looked around and chose the well-watered Jordan Valley, which looked like the Garden of Eden. He moved towards Sodom, while Abram stayed in Canaan. After Lot left, God spoke to Abram again. "Look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted." Years passed and Abram grew older, but he still had no children. One night, God came to him in a vision with reassuring words found in Genesis chapter 15. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." But Abram had a question that weighed heavily on his heart. "Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus?" Abram explained his concern. "You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir." According to the customs of that time, his servant would inherit everything if he died without sons. But God had a different plan. He took Abram outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, so shall your offspring be." It was a clear night, and the stars stretched endlessly across the heavens. God was promising that Abram's descendants would be just as countless. Genesis 15:6 records something remarkable. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Even though it seemed impossible for an old man and his barren wife to have children, Abram trusted God's promise completely. To confirm this promise, God made a formal covenant with Abram. He told him to bring a heifer, a goat, a ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. Abram cut the animals in half and arranged the pieces with a pathway between them. As the sun was setting, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and God spoke to him about the future. "Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions." This was a prophecy about their time in Egypt, which wouldn't happen for many years. When darkness fell, a smoking firepot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. This was God himself making the covenant, showing that his promises were absolutely certain. But Sarai grew impatient, waiting for God's promise. She suggested that Abram have a child through her Egyptian servant Hagar. "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed, and Hagar became pregnant. This decision caused problems immediately. Hagar began to despise Sarai, and Sarai treated her harshly. Hagar ran away into the desert, where an angel of the Lord found her by a spring. The angel told her to return and submit to Sarai, promising that her son would have many descendants. She was told to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. When Abram was 99 years old, God appeared to him again with an even more specific promise. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. God also changed Sarai's name to Sarah, meaning princess, and promised that she would have a son within a year. Abraham found this hard to believe and laughed, thinking, will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? But God confirmed his promise. Yes, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. Sure enough, Genesis chapter 21 tells us, now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham named the boy Isaac, which means laughter, because both he and Sarah had laughed at God's promise. When Isaac was born, Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. The impossible had happened. The promise was beginning to come true. As Isaac grew up, tensions arose in Abraham's household. Sarah noticed Ishmael mocking Isaac during a celebration and demanded that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac, she insisted. This troubled Abraham greatly, because Ishmael was also his son. But God told him, do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. God promised to make Ishmael into a nation too, but Isaac would carry on the covenant line. Years later, God tested Abraham's faith in the most difficult way possible. Genesis chapter 22 records, then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. This command seemed to contradict everything God had promised about Isaac. But Abraham obeyed without question. Early the next morning, he prepared for the journey, taking Isaac, 2 servants, and wood for the sacrifice. After 3 days of travel, they reached the place God had indicated. Abraham told his servants, stay here with the donkey, while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you. As they walked up the mountain, Isaac asked, Father, the fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham replied with faith-filled words, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. When they reached the top, Abraham built an altar, arranged the wood, and bound Isaac on top of it. Just as Abraham raised the knife, the angel of the Lord called out, Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now, I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. He sacrificed the ram instead of Isaac. The angel spoke again. I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. When Isaac grew up, Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for him from among his relatives. The servant prayed for guidance and met Rebekah at a well. She showed kindness by giving him water and watering his camels. When he learned she was from Abraham's family, he knew God had answered his prayer. Rebekah agreed to marry Isaac, and Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah, so she became his wife, and he loved her. Isaac and Rebekah had twin sons after 20 years of marriage. Before they were born, the babies jostled each other within her, and God told Rebekah, "2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." The first baby was born red and hairy, so they named him Esau. The second came out grasping Esau's heel, so they called him Jacob, which means he grasps the heel, or deceiver. As they grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter who loved the outdoors, while Jacob was a quiet man who stayed among the tents. One day, Esau came home from hunting, exhausted and hungry. Jacob was cooking stew, and Esau begged for some. Jacob saw an opportunity. "First, sell me your birthright." Esau, thinking only of his immediate hunger, said, "What good is the birthright to me?" So he sold his inheritance as the firstborn for a bowl of stew. Later, when Isaac was old and nearly blind, he wanted to bless Esau. But Rebekah overheard and helped Jacob deceive his father. She prepared food the way Isaac liked it, put goatskins on Jacob's hands and neck to make him feel hairy like Esau, and dressed him in Esau's clothes. When Jacob brought the food to his father, Isaac blessed him, thinking he was Esau. When Esau discovered what had happened, he was furious and planned to kill Jacob. Rebekah warned Jacob, who fled to her brother Laban's house in Haran. On the way, God appeared to Jacob in a dream at Bethel, showing him a ladder reaching to heaven with angels going up and down on it. God promised, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying." Jacob worked for Laban for 20 years, marrying both of Laban's daughters, first Leah, then Rachel. Through these wives and their servants, Jacob had 12 sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. These 12 sons would become the fathers of the 12 tribes of Israel. When Jacob finally returned to Canaan, he wrestled with a mysterious man all night by the Jabbok River. The man touched Jacob's hip and dislocated it, but Jacob wouldn't let go until he received a blessing. The man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." From that day forward, Jacob was called Israel, and his descendants became known as the Israelites. Among Jacob's 12 sons, Joseph stood out as his father's favorite. Genesis chapter 37 tells us that Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. This special treatment made his older brothers jealous and resentful. Joseph had dreams that made the situation worse. In his first dream, he saw himself and his brothers binding sheaves of grain in a field. His sheaf stood upright while his brothers' sheaves bowed down to it. When he told his brothers about this dream, they hated him even more. His second dream was about the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing down to him. Even Jacob was troubled by this dream and rebuked Joseph, asking, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" But Jacob kept the matter in mind, wondering what these dreams might mean. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were pasturing flocks near Shechem. When the brothers saw Joseph coming from a distance, they plotted against him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." But Reuben, the oldest brother, convinced them not to kill Joseph. Instead, they threw him into an empty cistern. When a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by on their way to Egypt, Judah suggested they sell Joseph rather than kill him. "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood?" Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." They sold Joseph for 20 shekels of silver. To cover up their crime, they killed a goat and dipped Joseph's colorful coat in its blood. When they showed it to Jacob, he concluded that a wild animal had killed his beloved son. "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." Jacob mourned for many days, refusing to be comforted. Meanwhile, the traders took Joseph to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. But the Lord was with Joseph, so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed that everything Joseph did succeeded, so he put him in charge of his entire household. However, Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph. Day after day, she asked him to sleep with her, but Joseph refused. "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" he asked. One day, when no one else was in the house, she grabbed his cloak and demanded he sleep with her. Joseph ran away, leaving his cloak in her hands. Angry at being rejected, Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of trying to assault her. She showed the cloak to her husband as evidence. Potiphar became furious and had Joseph thrown into prison. But even there, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Soon, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. While in prison, Joseph interpreted dreams for 2 of Pharaoh's former servants, the cupbearer and the baker. He told the cupbearer he would be restored to his position, and the baker that he would be executed. Both interpretations came true, exactly as Joseph had said. 2 years later, Pharaoh had troubling dreams that none of his wise men could interpret. The cupbearer finally remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh about him. Pharaoh immediately sent for Joseph, who explained that both dreams had the same meaning. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. Joseph continued, 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. He advised Pharaoh to appoint someone to collect grain during the good years to prepare for the famine. Pharaoh was so impressed that he said to his officials, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" He appointed Joseph as second in command over all Egypt. "You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." Joseph was 30 years old when he entered Pharaoh's service. During the 7 years of abundance, he collected enormous amounts of grain and stored it in cities throughout Egypt. When the famine came, it affected not only Egypt, but the surrounding countries as well. People from many nations came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph, including his own family back in Canaan. Now we move to the book of Exodus, where God's chosen people face their darkest hour before experiencing the most powerful display of divine intervention in history. This is the story of liberation, law, and learning to trust God in the wilderness. Years had passed since Joseph's death, and a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. The Israelites had grown into a mighty nation, filling the land with their numbers. This worried the new Pharaoh greatly. In Exodus 1:9-10, he told his people, "Look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and it happen in the event of war, that they also join our enemies and fight against us, and so go up out of the land." The Egyptians made the Israelites' lives bitter with hard bondage. They forced them to build treasure cities for Pharaoh, making bricks and working in the fields under cruel taskmasters. But the more they were afflicted, the more they multiplied and grew. Pharaoh then commanded every Hebrew boy to be thrown into the river, but the daughters could live. During this dark time, a Levite woman gave birth to a son. When she could no longer hide him, she took a basket made of bulrushes, covered it with tar and pitch, put the child in it, and placed it among the reeds by the river's bank. Pharaoh's daughter came down to wash at the river and found the basket. As recorded in Exodus 2:6, when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." The baby's sister quickly offered to find a Hebrew woman to nurse the child. Pharaoh's daughter agreed, unknowingly hiring the baby's own mother. She named him Moses, saying she drew him out of the water. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house, but never forgot his true identity. One day he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew and killed the Egyptian, hiding his body in the sand. The next day, when he tried to settle a dispute between two Hebrews, one asked him, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" Moses realized his deed was known and fled to the land of Midian when Pharaoh sought to kill him. Moses settled in Midian, married Zipporah, and became a shepherd for his father-in-law Jethro. For 40 years, he tended flocks in the wilderness, far from the cries of his enslaved people. One ordinary day, while leading the flock to the backside of the desert near Horeb, the mountain of God, everything changed. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. Moses looked, and the bush burned with fire but was not consumed. He said to himself, "I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn." When the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And Moses answered, "Here I am." God commanded in Exodus 3:5, "Do not draw near this place. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Then he declared, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. The Lord revealed his heart for his suffering people. "I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey." God commissioned Moses to go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt. Moses immediately began making excuses. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" he asked. God assured him, "I will certainly be with you." When Moses asked what he should say when the people asked for God's name, the Lord answered in Exodus 3:14, "I am who I am. Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you." Moses continued his protests, claiming the people wouldn't believe him. God gave him 3 miraculous signs. His rod would turn into a serpent, his hand would become leprous and then be healed, and water from the river would turn to blood on dry land. Still, Moses complained, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." God's anger kindled against Moses, but he appointed Aaron, Moses' brother, to be his spokesman. Moses and Aaron came before Pharaoh with God's message, "Let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." But Pharaoh's response revealed his hardened heart. In Exodus 5:2 he declared, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor will I let Israel go." Instead of releasing the Israelites, Pharaoh made their burdens heavier. He commanded that they no longer be given straw to make bricks, but must gather their own straw, while maintaining the same quota. The people turned against Moses and Aaron, crying out that they had made their situation worse. God then began to demonstrate his power through 10 devastating plagues. First, Aaron struck the waters of Egypt with his rod, and all the water turned to blood. The fish died, the river stank, and the Egyptians couldn't drink from their water sources. But Pharaoh's magicians did the same with their enchantments, and his heart remained hard. 7 days later, Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and frogs came up and covered the land. They were in houses, bedchambers, beds, ovens, and kneading bowls. Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, begging them to remove the frogs, promising to let the people go. But when the frogs died and were gathered in heaps, making the land stink, Pharaoh hardened his heart again. The third plague brought lice from the dust of the earth, covering both man and beast. This time Pharaoh's magicians couldn't replicate the miracle and told Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart remained hard. The fourth plague sent swarms of flies throughout Egypt, but God made a distinction, and no flies appeared in Goshen, where the Israelites lived. The fifth plague killed all the livestock of Egypt, but none of the Israelites' animals died. The sixth plague brought painful boils on man and beast throughout Egypt. The magicians couldn't even stand before Moses because of the boils. As recorded in Exodus 9:12, "But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not heed them, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses." The seventh plague brought devastating hail mixed with fire. God warned through Moses in Exodus 9:18-19, "Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause very heavy hail to rain down, such as has not been in Egypt since its founding until now. Therefore send now and gather your livestock and all that you have in the field, for the hail shall come down on every man and every animal which is found in the field and is not brought home, and they shall die." Some Egyptians feared God's word and brought their servants and livestock inside, but others left them in the field. The eighth plague brought locusts that ate every herb and fruit that the hail had left. Pharaoh's servants pleaded with him, "How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed?" But when Moses and Aaron were brought back, Pharaoh would only allow the men to go, not the families. The ninth plague covered Egypt with thick darkness for 3 days. People couldn't see each other or leave their homes, but the Israelites had light in their dwellings. Pharaoh called Moses and agreed to let all the people go if they left their flocks and herds behind. Moses refused, saying they needed their animals for sacrifices. Finally, God announced the 10th and most terrible plague through Moses in Exodus 11:4-6. "Thus says the Lord, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the animals. Then there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as was not like it before, nor shall be like it again." Before the final plague, God gave Moses and Aaron detailed instructions for a special meal that would become Israel's most important celebration. In Exodus 12:3, he commanded, "Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. The lamb had to be without blemish, a male of the first year. On the 14th day of the month at twilight, they were to kill the lamb and take some of its blood to put on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of their houses. That night, they would eat the lamb roasted with fire, along with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. God instructed them to eat it in haste, with their belts fastened, sandals on their feet, and staff in hand, for it was the Lord's Passover. God explained the significance in Exodus 12:13. "For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. At midnight the Lord struck all the firstborn in Egypt, from Pharaoh's firstborn who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. Pharaoh rose in the night along with all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron by night and said, "Rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also." The Egyptians urged the people to hurry and leave the land, for they said, "We shall all be dead." The Israelites asked their Egyptian neighbors for articles of silver, gold, and clothing. The Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so they granted their request. In this way, they plundered the Egyptians. About 600,000 men on foot, besides children, went up from Egypt, along with a mixed multitude and very much livestock. God led them by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. He went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so they could travel day and night. When Pharaoh heard that the people had fled, his heart and his servants' hearts were turned against the people. They said, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" Pharaoh prepared his chariot and took his people with him 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, with captains over everyone. The Egyptians pursued them and overtook them camping by the sea. When the Israelites saw the Egyptians marching after them, they were greatly afraid and cried out to the Lord. They complained to Moses, "Because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness?" Moses answered the people in Exodus 14:13-14, "Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." The angel of God moved from before the camp of Israel and went behind them. The pillar of cloud went from before them and stood behind them, coming between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, making the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. The children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. After the miraculous crossing, Moses and the children of Israel sang a song of victory to the Lord. They declared in Exodus 15:1-2, "I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him. My father's God, and I will exalt him." Moses led Israel from the Red Sea into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they couldn't drink the waters because they were bitter. The people complained against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. When he cast it into the waters were made sweet. They came to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the waters. Then they journeyed from Elim and came to the wilderness of Sin. The whole congregation of Israel complained again, this time about food. They said to Moses and Aaron in Exodus 16:3, "Oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to the full, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." The Lord told Moses he would rain bread from heaven for them. The people were to go out and gather a certain quota every day, and on the 6th day they would gather twice as much. That evening, quail came up and covered the camp, and in the morning dew lay all around the camp. When the dew lifted, there were small round substances on the ground, as fine as frost. The children of Israel said to one another, "What is it?" Moses told them, "This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat." God commanded them to gather an omer for each person in their tent. Some gathered much, some little, but when they measured it, those who gathered much had nothing left over, and those who gathered little had no lack. Moses told them not to leave any until morning, but some didn't listen and kept part of it. It bred worms and stank. Every morning they gathered it, and when the sun became hot it melted. The Israelites called the bread manna, and it was like white coriander seed, and its taste was like wafers made with honey. They ate manna 40 years, until they came to the border of Canaan. The congregation journeyed from the wilderness of Sin and camped in Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. The people contended with Moses and said, "Give us water that we may drink." Moses said to them, "Why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt the Lord?" But the people thirsted there for water and complained, saying, "Why is it you have brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" Moses cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses in Exodus 17:6, "Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock in Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, and water will come out of it, that the people may drink." Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the contention of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord. In the 3rd month after leaving Egypt, the Israelites came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped before the mountain. Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before them all these words. All the people answered together and said, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." The Lord told Moses to consecrate the people for 2 days, and on the 3rd day the Lord would come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. On the 3rd day in the morning there were thunderings and lightnings, and a thick cloud on the mountain. The sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people in the camp trembled. Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was completely in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. When the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him by voice. The Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and called Moses to the top. God spoke all these words in Exodus 20:1-17, giving the 10 Commandments. "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet." When all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking, they trembled and stood far off. They said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die." Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin." Moses delayed coming down from the mountain after receiving detailed instructions about the tabernacle and the law. The people grew restless and gathered together to Aaron, saying in Exodus 32:1, "Come, make us gods that shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." Aaron told them to break off the golden earrings from their wives, sons, and daughters, and bring them to him. He received the gold from their hand, fashioned it with an engraving tool, and made a molded calf. The people declared, "This is your God, O Israel, that brought you out of the land of Egypt." Aaron built an altar before it and proclaimed, "Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord." They rose early the next day, offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and sat down to eat and drink, then rose up to play. The Lord said to Moses, "Go, get down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded calf and worshipped it and sacrificed to it." God's anger burned against them, and he said he would consume them and make a great nation from Moses instead. Moses pleaded with the Lord his God and said in Exodus 32:11-12, "Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, 'He brought them out to harm them, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth'? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people." Moses reminded God of his promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. The Lord relented from the harm he said he would do to his people. Moses turned and went down from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, written on both sides by the finger of God. When he came near the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger became hot, and he cast the tablets out of his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf, burned it in the fire, ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the children of Israel drink it. Moses said to Aaron, "What did this people do to you that you have brought so great a sin upon them?" Aaron made excuses, claiming the people were set on evil and that he simply threw the gold into the fire and the calf came out. Moses saw that the people were unrestrained and stood in the entrance of the camp, saying, "Whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me." All the sons of Levi gathered to him. The next day, Moses said to the people, "You have committed a great sin. So now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, these people have committed a great sin and have made for themselves a god of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book which you have written." The Lord told Moses to depart and lead the people to the land he had promised, but he would not go up in their midst, lest he consume them, for they were a stiff-necked people. When the people heard this bad news, they mourned, and no one put on his ornaments. Moses took his tent and pitched it outside the camp, far from the camp, and called it the Tabernacle of Meeting. Everyone who sought the Lord went out to the Tabernacle of Meeting. Moses entered the tabernacle, and the pillar of cloud descended and stood at the door, while the Lord talked with Moses. The Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. Moses made a bold request in Exodus 33:18, "Please show me your glory." God replied that he would make all his goodness pass before Moses and proclaim the name of the Lord. But Moses could not see his face and live. After Moses received the second set of tablets, he gathered all the congregation of Israel and told them about God's instructions for building the tabernacle. He said in Exodus 35:4-5, "This is the thing which the Lord commanded, saying, 'Take from among you an offering to the Lord. Whoever is of a willing heart, let him bring it as an offering to the Lord, gold, silver, and bronze.'" The people responded with generous hearts. Every man and woman whose heart was willing brought bracelets, earrings, rings, necklaces, and all jewelry of gold. Everyone who could contribute blue, purple, and scarlet thread, fine linen, goat's hair, ram skins dyed, red badger skins and acacia wood brought them. The rulers brought onyx stones and stones to be set in the ephod and breastplate, spices and oil, for the light and anointing oil. God had filled Bezalel with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and all manner of workmanship, to design artistic works in gold, silver, bronze, cutting jewels, carving wood, and all manner of artistic workmanship. He also gave skill to Aholiab and others to do all the work of the sanctuary. The skilled workers made the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine woven linen and blue, purple, and scarlet thread, with artistic designs of cherubim. They made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle, covering of ram skins dyed red, and covering of badger skins above that. They made boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood, standing upright, overlaid with gold. They constructed the ark of the testimony, the mercy seat, the table of showbread, the golden lampstand, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offering, the bronze laver, and the court around the tabernacle. They made the holy garments for Aaron and his sons, exactly as the Lord had commanded Moses. Moses examined all the work, and indeed they had done it as the Lord had commanded. So Moses blessed them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in Exodus 42, "On the first day of the first month you shall set up the tabernacle of the tent of meeting." Moses did according to all that the Lord commanded him. On the first day of the first month of the second year, the tabernacle was raised up. Moses set up the tabernacle, fastened its sockets, set up its boards, put in its bars, and raised up its pillars. He spread out the tent over the tabernacle and put the covering of the tent on top of it. He put the testimony into the ark, set the mercy seat on top of the ark, brought the ark into the tabernacle, and hung up the veil to screen the ark of the testimony. Moses set the table in the tabernacle, arranged the bread in order on it before the Lord, put the lampstand in the tabernacle, and lit the lamps before the Lord, put the gold altar in the tabernacle before the veil, burned sweet incense on it, hung up the screen at the door of the tabernacle, put the altar of burnt offering before the door, set the laver between the tabernacle and the altar, and put water there for washing. When Moses had finished the work, the cloud covered the tabernacle of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses was not able to enter the tabernacle of meeting because the cloud rested above it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. The final verses of Exodus record in Exodus 40:36-38, "Whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle, the children of Israel would go onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not journey till the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was above the tabernacle by day, and fire was over it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel, throughout all their journeys." Now we turn to the books of Leviticus and Numbers, where God teaches his people how to worship him properly and walk with him through the wilderness. These books show us God's holiness, his detailed care for his people, and the consequences of both obedience and rebellion during their long journey to the promised land. The Lord called to Moses from the tabernacle of meeting and spoke to him about the offerings his people should bring. God established 5 main types of sacrifices, each with its own purpose and specific instructions. The first was the burnt offering, described in Leviticus 1:3-4. If his offering is a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own free will at the door of the tabernacle of meeting before the Lord. Then he shall put his hand on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted on his behalf to make atonement for him. The person bringing the offering would kill the animal, and the priests would sprinkle its blood all around on the altar. They would cut the animal into pieces, wash the inner parts and legs with water, and burn everything on the altar. The Lord declared in Leviticus 1:9, "It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord." The grain offering came next, made of fine flour with oil and frankincense. As stated in Leviticus 2:1-2, when anyone offers a grain offering to the Lord, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil on it, and put frankincense on it. Then he shall bring it to Aaron's sons, the priests, one of whom shall take from it his handful of fine flour and oil, with all the frankincense. And the priest shall burn it as a memorial on the altar, an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord. Part of this offering belonged to the priests, but no grain offering could be made with leaven or honey, and every grain offering had to be seasoned with salt. The peace offering allowed the worshipper to eat part of the sacrifice in fellowship with God and others. Leviticus 3:1 explains, "When his offering is a sacrifice of a peace offering, if he offers it of the herd, whether male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before the Lord." The fat portions and certain organs were burned on the altar, while the breast and right thigh went to the priests. The rest could be eaten by the worshipper and his family, but it had to be consumed within specific time limits. The sin offering dealt with unintentional sins and ceremonial uncleanness. God gave different instructions depending on who committed the sin. Leviticus 4:27-28 addresses common people. If any one of the common people sins unintentionally by doing something against any of the commandments of the Lord in anything which ought not to be done and is guilty, or if his sin which he has committed comes to his knowledge, then he shall bring as his offering a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he has committed. The priest would put some blood on the horns of the altar of burnt offering and pour the rest at its base. The trespass offering, also called the guilt offering, required not only a sacrifice, but also restitution, plus 20% to the person wronged. Leviticus 5:15-16 states, "If a person commits a trespass and sins unintentionally in regard to the holy things of the Lord, then he shall bring to the Lord as his trespass offering a ram without blemish from the flocks, with your valuation, in shekels of silver according to the shekel of the sanctuary, as a trespass offering. And he shall make restitution for the harm that he has done in regard to the holy thing, and shall add 1/5 to it and give it to the priest." God also gave specific instructions about how these offerings should be prepared and offered. The fire on the altar was never to go out, as commanded in Leviticus 6:12-13, and the fire on the altar shall be kept burning on it. It shall not be put out, and the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in order on it, and he shall burn on it the fat of the peace offerings. A fire shall always be burning on the altar, it shall never go out. The priests had their own portions from these offerings. The grain offerings' remainder belonged to Aaron and his sons, to be eaten as unleavened bread in a holy place. The sin offering's meat was to be eaten by the priests in the court of the tabernacle, but if any blood was brought inside the holy place, that entire animal had to be burned outside the camp. Moses gathered all the congregation at the door of the tabernacle of meeting to consecrate Aaron and his sons as priests. As the Lord had commanded in Leviticus 8:5-6, Moses said to the congregation, "This is what the Lord commanded to be done." Then Moses brought Aaron and his sons and washed them with water. Moses put the tunic on Aaron, girded him with the sash, clothed him with the robe, put the ephod on him, and girded him with the intricately woven band of the ephod. He put the breastplate on him and placed the Urim and Thummim in the breastplate. Moses set the turban on Aaron's head and put the golden plate, the holy crown, on the front of the turban. Then Moses took the anointing oil and anointed the tabernacle and all that was in it and consecrated them. He sprinkled some oil on the altar 7 times, anointing the altar and all its utensils and the laver and its base. He poured anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to consecrate him. Moses brought Aaron's sons, put tunics on them, girded them with sashes, and put hats on them, as the Lord had commanded. He brought the bull for the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Moses killed it, took the blood, put it on the horns of the altar with his finger, purified the altar, poured the blood at the base of the altar, and consecrated it to make atonement for it. The ram for the burnt offering came next, followed by the second ram, the ram of consecration. Moses took some of its blood and put it on the tip of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. He did the same for Aaron's sons. Moses declared in Leviticus 8:33-34, "And you shall not go out of the door of the tabernacle of meeting for 7 days, until the days of your consecration are ended. For 7 days he shall consecrate you, as he has done this day, so the Lord has commanded to do, to make atonement for you." On the 8th day, Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. Aaron offered his sin offering and burnt offering, then offered the people's offerings. When Aaron had finished making offerings, he lifted his hand toward the people and blessed them. Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of meeting, came out, and blessed the people. As recorded in Leviticus 9:23-24, "Then the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people, and fire came out from before the Lord, and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. When all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. But tragedy struck when Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu each took his censer, put fire in it, put incense on it, and offered profane fire before the Lord, which he had not commanded them. Fire went out from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord." Moses said to Aaron in Leviticus 10:3, "This is what the Lord spoke, saying, 'By those who come near me I must be regarded as holy, and before all the people I must be glorified.'" Aaron held his peace. God then spoke directly to Aaron about the priest's responsibilities, saying in Leviticus 10:9-11, "Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, you, nor your sons with you, when you go into the tabernacle of meeting, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that you may distinguish between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean, and that you may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord has spoken to them by the hand of Moses." The Lord gave detailed laws about clean and unclean animals. Animals that both chew the cud and have split hooves could be eaten, but those with only one of these characteristics were forbidden. In the waters, only creatures with fins and scales were permitted. Many birds were specifically forbidden, along with most insects, except locusts, grasshoppers, and crickets. God also established laws about childbirth, skin diseases, and mildew in houses and clothing. When someone was healed of leprosy, there was a specific cleansing ceremony involving 2 live clean birds, cedarwood, scarlet, and hyssop. The priest would kill one bird over running water in an earthen vessel, then dip the living bird along with the other materials in the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times on the person being cleansed. The most solemn day of the year was the Day of Atonement. Only on this day could the high priest enter the most holy place. Aaron had to offer a sin offering for himself first, then cast lots over 2 goats brought by the people. As described in Leviticus 16:8-10, "Then Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord, and the other lot for the scapegoat. And Aaron shall bring the goat on which the Lord's lot fell, and offer it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord, to make atonement upon it, and to let it go as the scapegoat into the wilderness. After making atonement in the most holy place, the holy place, and the altar, Aaron would lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities and transgressions of Israel. The goat would then be sent away into the wilderness by the hand of a suitable man. bearing all their iniquities to an uninhabited land. God established laws that went far beyond ceremonial matters, touching every aspect of daily life. He began with strict instructions about where sacrifices could be offered. Leviticus 17:3-4 states, "Whatever man of the house of Israel who kills an ox or lamb or goat in the camp, or who kills it outside the camp, and does not bring it to the door of the tabernacle of meeting to offer an offering to the Lord before the tabernacle of the Lord, the guilt of bloodshed shall be imputed to that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people." The prohibition against eating blood was absolute. God declared in Leviticus 17:11, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul." Any person who ate an animal that died naturally or was torn by beasts had to wash his clothes, bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. God then addressed sexual morality with clear boundaries. The fundamental principle was stated in Leviticus 18:6. "None of you shall approach anyone who is near of kin to him to uncover his nakedness. I am the Lord." Specific relationships were forbidden, including parents, siblings, children, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, and in-laws. The Lord also forbade homosexual relations and bestiality. These laws weren't arbitrary rules, but reflected God's character. He explained in Leviticus 18:24-25, "Do not defile yourselves with any of these things, for by all these the nations are defiled, which I am casting out before you, for the land is defiled. Therefore I visit the punishment of its iniquity upon it, and the land vomits out its inhabitants." The famous command to love one's neighbor came in this context of holy living. Leviticus 19:18 declares, "You shall not take vengeance nor bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." This wasn't isolated, but part of a comprehensive system of justice and mercy. God commanded honest business practices. Leviticus 19:35-36 states, "You shall do no injustice in judgment, in measurement of length, weight, or volume. You shall have honest scales, honest weights, an honest ephah, and an honest hin. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." Stealing, lying, and swearing falsely were forbidden. The treatment of the poor and disadvantaged revealed God's heart for justice. When harvesting fields, farmers were commanded in Leviticus 19:9-10, "When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not wholly reap the corners of your field, nor shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. And you shall not glean your vineyard, nor shall you gather every grape of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I am the Lord your God." God established cities of refuge for those who killed someone accidentally, and specific penalties for various crimes. Murder required the death penalty, but there were distinctions between intentional and unintentional killing. Leviticus 24:17 states clearly, "Whoever kills any man shall surely be put to death." But God also provided justice for lesser offenses. If a man causes disfigurement of his neighbor, as he has done, so shall it be done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The Sabbath year came every seventh year, when the land was to rest. Leviticus 25:4 explains, "But in the seventh year there shall be a Sabbath of solemn rest for the land, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard." Whatever grew of itself could be eaten, but there was to be no formal cultivation. The year of Jubilee occurred every 50th year, bringing freedom and restoration. As proclaimed in Leviticus 25:10, "And you shall consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his possession, and each of you shall return to his family. Hebrew slaves were freed, and ancestral lands returned to their original families. God promised blessings for obedience, but also warned of consequences for disobedience. The blessings included rain in season, abundant harvests, peace in the land, and God's presence among them. But the curses for disobedience were severe: disease, famine, wild beasts, war, and ultimately exile from the land. In the second year after the Exodus, on the first day of the second month, the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tabernacle of meeting. He commanded Moses in Numbers 1-2-3, "Take a census of all the congregation of the children of Israel, by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male individually, from 20 years old and above, all who are able to go to war in Israel. You and Aaron shall number them by their armies." God appointed one leader from each tribe to help with the census. From Reuben came Elizur, the son of Shedeur. From Simeon, Shelumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. From Judah, Nashon, the son of Aminadab. From Issachar, Nethaneel, the son of Zuar. From Zebulun, Eliab, the son of Helon. From Ephraim, Elishama, the son of Ammihud. From Manasseh, Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. From Benjamin, Abidan, the son of Gideoni. From Dan, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. From Asher, Pagiel, the son of Okran. From Gad, Eliasaph, the son of Doel. And from Naphtali, Ahira, the son of Enan. The census revealed the military strength of each tribe. Judah was the largest, with 74,600 men, followed by Dan with 62,700, and Naphtali with 53,400. The smallest was Manasseh, with 32,200. The total number of men, 20 years old and above, who were able to go to war was 603,550. However, the tribe of Levi was not numbered among them. The Lord spoke to Moses in Numbers 1:49-50, saying, "Only the tribe of Levi you shall not number, nor take a census of them among the children of Israel. But you shall appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, over all its furnishings, and over all things that belong to it. They shall carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings. They shall attend to it and camp around the tabernacle." God then gave specific instructions for the arrangement of the camp. The tabernacle was at the center, with the Levites camping around it. The 12 tribes were arranged in 4 groups of 3 tribes each, positioned on the 4 sides of the camp. Numbers 2.2 states, "Every one of the children of Israel shall camp by his own standard, beside the emblems of his father's house. They shall camp some distance from the tabernacle of meeting." On the east side, toward the sunrise, was the standard of Judah's forces, led by Nashon, the son of Aminadab. With Judah camped Issachar under Nethaneel, the son of Zuar, and Zebulun under Eliab, the son of Helon. The total number in Judah's camp was 186,400, and they were to break camp first. On the south side was the standard of Reuben's forces, led by Elizur, the son of Shedeur. With Reuben camped Simeon under Shelumiel, the son of Zurishaddai, and Gad under Eliasaph, the son of Reuel. The total number in Reuben's camp was 151,450, and they were to move out second. The tabernacle of meeting was to move out with the camp of the Levites in the middle of the camps. Numbers 2:17 explains, "As they camp, so they shall move out, everyone in his place, by their standards." On the west side was the standard of Ephraim's forces, led by Elishama the son of Ammihud. With Ephraim camped Manasseh under Gamaliel the son of Pedazur, and Benjamin under Abidan the son of Gideoni. The total number in Ephraim's camp was 180,100, and they were to move out third. On the north side was the standard of Dan's forces, led by Ahiezer the son of Ammishaddai. With Dan camped Asher under Pagiel the son of Okran, and Naphtali under Ahira the son of Enan. The total number in Dan's camp was 157,600, and they were to move out last. God then gave Moses a separate census of the Levites. Numbers 3.6-8 records the Lord's command: bring the tribe of Levi near and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. And they shall attend to his needs and the needs of the whole congregation before the tabernacle of meeting, to do the work of the tabernacle. Also they shall attend to all the furnishings of the tabernacle of meeting, and to the needs of the children of Israel, to do the work of the tabernacle. The Levites were divided into 3 main family groups. The sons of Gershon were responsible for the tabernacle, tent covering, screen for the door of the tabernacle, screen for the court, and all the cords. The sons of Kohath cared for the ark, table, lampstand, altars, utensils of the sanctuary, and the screen, all the holy things. The sons of Merari handled the boards of the tabernacle, bars, pillars, sockets, and all related work. When the Israelites reached the border of the promised land at Kadesh Barnea, the Lord spoke to Moses in Numbers 13:1-2, saying, "Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the children of Israel. From each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a leader among them." Moses sent 12 men, 1 from each tribe. From Judah he sent Caleb the son of Jephunneh. From Ephraim, Hoshea the son of Nun, whom Moses called Joshua. From Benjamin, Palti the son of Raphu. From Zebulun, Gadiel the son of Sodi. From Manasseh, Gadi the son of Susi. From Dan, Amiel the son of Gemali. From Asher, Sather the son of Michael. From Naphtali, Nahbi the son of Vopsi. From Gad, Guel the son of Machi. From Reuben, Shammua the son of Zachar. From Simeon, Shaphat the son of Hori. And from Issachar, Igal the son of Joseph. Moses commanded them in Numbers 13:17-20, "Go up this way into the south, and go up to the mountains, and see what the land is like, whether the people who dwell in it are strong or weak, few or many, whether the land they dwell in is good or bad, whether the cities they inhabit are like camps or strongholds, whether the land is rich or poor, and whether there are forests there or not. Be of good courage, and bring some of the fruit of the land." The spies spent 40 days exploring the land. They went up through the south and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, lived. They came to the valley of Eshcol and cut down a branch with 1 cluster of grapes, which they carried between 2 men on a pole. They also brought pomegranates and figs. When they returned to Moses, Aaron, and all the congregation at Kadesh, they showed them the fruit of the land and reported in Numbers 13:27-28, "We went to the land where you sent us. It truly flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. Nevertheless, the people who dwell in the land are strong. The cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there." 10 of the spies continued with a discouraging report. "The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the banks of the Jordan." But Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it." The other spies contradicted him, saying in Numbers 13:31-33, "We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. The land through which we have gone as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great stature. There we saw the giants. The descendants of Anak came from the giants, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight." The congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. All the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, saying, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us to this land to fall by the sword?" that our wives and children should become victims? Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" They even said to one another, "Let us select a leader and return to Egypt." Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly. Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh tore their clothes and spoke to all the congregation, saying in Numbers 14:7-9, "The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." But all the congregation said to stone them with stones. Then the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of meeting before all the children of Israel. The Lord said to Moses in Numbers 14:11-12, "How long will these people reject me, and how long will they not believe me, with all the signs which I have performed among them? I will strike them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make of you a nation greater and mightier than they." Moses interceded for the people, pleading with God to pardon them according to the greatness of his mercy. The Lord responded in Numbers 14:20-23, "I have pardoned according to your word, but truly, as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all these men who have seen my glory and the signs which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have put me to the test now these 10 times, and have not heeded my voice, they certainly shall not see the land of which I swore to their fathers, nor shall any of those who rejected me see it." Only Caleb and Joshua would enter the promised land from their generation. The Lord declared in Numbers 14:28-35 that the Edes people would wander in the wilderness for 40 years. 1 year for each day, the spies had explored the land. All those 20 years old and above who had complained would die in the wilderness, except for Caleb and Joshua. During the wilderness wandering, a serious challenge arose to Moses' and Aaron's leadership. Korah, a Levite, joined with Dathan and Abiram from the tribe of Reuben, along with 250 leaders of the congregation, well-known men of renown. Numbers 16:3 records their accusation. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves. For all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" When Moses heard this, he fell on his face. Then he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying in Numbers 16:5-7, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Do this, take censers, Korah and all your company. Put fire in them, and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow, and it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi." Moses said further to Korah, "Is it a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to serve them? And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi with you, and are you seeking the priesthood also?" Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, but they refused to come up, saying in Numbers 16:13-14, "Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up." Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I hurt one of them. The next morning Moses told Korah to appear before the Lord with his 250 followers, each with his censer filled with incense. When they assembled at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, the glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." But Moses and Aaron fell on their faces and said, "O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation?" The Lord told Moses to have the congregation move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Moses went to Dathan and Abiram, followed by the elders of Israel. He warned the congregation in Numbers 16:26, "Depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins." Moses then declared in Numbers 16:28-30, "By this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord." As soon as Moses finished speaking these words, the ground split apart under them. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households and all the men with Korah, along with all their goods. They went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed over them. They perished from among the assembly. All Israel around them fled at their cry, fearing the earth might swallow them too. Fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. The Lord told Moses to have Eleazar the priest gather the censers and scatter the fire, then hammer the censers into plates as a covering for the altar. Numbers 16:40 explains, "This was to be a memorial to the children of Israel, that no outsider who is not a descendant of Aaron should come near to offer incense before the Lord, that he might not become like Korah and his companions." The next day, all the congregation complained against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the people of the Lord." When they gathered against Moses and Aaron, they looked toward the tabernacle of meeting, and the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. A plague began among the people, but Aaron quickly ran into the midst of the congregation with his censer, made atonement for the people, and stood between the dead and the living. The plague stopped, but 14,700 people died, besides those who died in the incident of Korah. To settle the question of priesthood once and for all, the Lord told Moses to have each tribal leader bring a rod with his name written on it. Aaron's name was written on the rod of Levi. Moses placed them in the tabernacle of meeting before the testimony. The Lord said in Numbers 17:5, "And it shall be that the rod of the man whom I choose will blossom. Thus I will rid myself of the complaints of the children of Israel, which they make against you." The next day, Moses went into the tabernacle and found that Aaron's rod had not only budded, but had also blossomed and yielded ripe almonds. Moses brought out all the rods, and each man took his rod. The Lord told Moses to put Aaron's rod back before the testimony, to be kept as a sign against the rebels, that their complaints might cease. The congregation of Israel came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed in Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Once again there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. The people contended with Moses and spoke in Numbers 23:5, saying, "If only we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. Why have you brought up the assembly of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our animals should die here? And why have you made us come up out of Egypt to bring us to this evil place? It is not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, nor is there any water to drink." Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and they fell on their faces. The glory of the Lord appeared to them, and the Lord spoke to Moses in Numbers 27-8, saying, "Take the rod, you and your brother Aaron, gather the congregation together. Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will yield its water. Thus you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give drink to the congregation and their animals." Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock, and Moses said to them, "Hear now, you rebels. Must we bring water for you out of this rock?" Then Moses lifted his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod, and water came out abundantly. The congregation and their animals drank. But the Lord was not pleased with Moses and Aaron's actions. He spoke to them in Numbers 20:12, saying, "Because you did not believe me, to hallow me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them." This was the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel contended with the Lord, and he was hallowed among them. Moses had failed to follow God's specific instruction to speak to the rock. Instead, he struck it in anger and took credit for the miracle, asking, "Must we bring water for you out of this rock?" His disobedience and failure to honor God before the people cost him the privilege of entering the promised land. Soon after this incident, Aaron died on Mount Hor. The Lord had told Moses and Aaron in Numbers 20:24, "Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah." Moses took Aaron and his son Eleazar up to Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. He stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on Eleazar his son. Aaron died there on the top of the mountain, and Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. When all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, all the house of Israel mourned for Aaron 30 days. As the Israelites continued their journey, they grew discouraged because of the way. The people spoke against God and against Moses in Numbers 21:5, saying, "Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and our soul loathes this worthless bread." Because of their complaints, the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, so that many of the people of Israel died. The people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he take away the serpents from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses in Numbers 21:8-9, "Make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and it shall be that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, shall live." So Moses made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. And so it was, if a serpent had bitten anyone, when he looked at the bronze serpent, he lived. The Israelites then traveled through various territories, sometimes fighting battles when passage was denied. They defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, taking possession of their lands. When they camped in the plains of Moab, beside the Jordan across from Jericho, Balak, the king of Moab, became terrified. Balak said to the elders of Midian in Numbers 22:4, "Now this company will lick up everything around us, as an ox licks up the grass of the field." So Balak sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, with money for divination, saying, "Look, a people has come from Egypt. See, they cover the face of the earth and are settling next to me. Therefore please come at once. Curse this people for me, for they are too mighty for me." God came to Balaam and said, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam explained about Balak's request. God told Balaam in Numbers 22:12, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." Balaam refused Balak's first messengers, but when more honorable princes came with promises of great honor, Balaam sought God again. God told Balaam he could go, but only speak what God told him. Balaam saddled his donkey and went with the princes of Moab. But God's anger was aroused because he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the way as an adversary against him. The donkey saw the angel standing in the way with his drawn sword and turned aside into the field. Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. The angel stood in a narrow path between vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, so he struck her again. The angel moved further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn either right or left. When the donkey saw the angel, she lay down under Balaam, and his anger was aroused, so he struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said to Balaam in Numbers 22:28, "What have I done to you, that you have struck me these 3 times?" Balaam said to the donkey, "Because you have abused me. I wish there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you." The donkey pointed out that she had always been faithful to him and had never acted this way before. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. Balaam bowed his head and fell flat on his face. The angel said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to stand against you, because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely I would also have killed you by now and let her live." Balaam confessed his sin and offered to return home. But the angel told him to go with the men, speaking only what God would tell him. When Balaam met Balak, the king took him to high places to see the people of Israel. 3 times Balak asked Balaam to curse Israel, and 3 times Balaam could only bless them instead. In his first oracle, Balaam declared in Numbers 23:9-10, "For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, a people dwelling alone, not reckoning itself among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, or number 1/4 of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my end be like his." In his second oracle, Balaam proclaimed in Numbers 23:19-20, "God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Behold, I have received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot reverse it." In his third oracle, Balaam spoke even more powerfully in Numbers 24:5-9, "How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel! Like valleys that stretch out, like gardens by the riverside, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. He shall pour water from his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters. His king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brings him out of Egypt. He has strength like a wild ox. He shall consume the nations, his enemies. He shall break their bones and pierce them with his arrows. He bows down, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion, who shall rouse him? Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you." Balak's anger was aroused against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. But Balaam gave one final prophecy about a future ruler, saying in Numbers 24:17, "I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and batter the brow of Moab, and destroy all the sons of tumult." Though Balaam couldn't curse Israel, he apparently gave Balak advice on how to cause them to sin. The Israelites began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab, who invited them to the sacrifices of their gods. The people ate and bowed down to their gods. Israel was joined to Baal of Peor, and the Lord's anger was aroused against Israel. The Lord said to Moses, "Take all the leaders of the people and hang the offenders before the Lord out in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel." A plague began among the people because of their sin. When an Israelite man brought a Midianite woman into the camp in the sight of Moses and all the congregation, Phinehas the son of Eleazar took a javelin in his hand, went after the man into the tent, and thrust both of them through. The plague was stopped, but 24,000 had died. We now come to the book of Deuteronomy, where Moses delivers his final speeches to the people of Israel on the plains of Moab, just before they enter the promised land. This book contains Moses' last words of instruction, warning, and blessing as he prepares a new generation to inherit what their parents had forfeited through unbelief. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to all Israel according to all that the Lord had given him as commandments to them. He began by reminding them of their journey, saying in Deuteronomy 1:6-8, "The Lord our God spoke to us in Horeb, saying, 'You have dwelt long enough at this mountain. Turn and take your journey, and go to the mountains of the Amorites, to all the neighboring places in the plain, in the mountains and in the lowland, in the south and on the seashore, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord swore to your fathers.'" Moses recalled how he had appointed judges to help him lead the people, telling them in Deuteronomy 1:16-17, "Hear the cases between your brethren, and judge righteously between a man and his brother or the stranger who is with him. You shall not show partiality in judgment. You shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid in any man's presence, for the judgment is God's." He reminded them of the mission of the 12 spies and how their fathers had rebelled at Kadesh Barnea. Moses declared in Deuteronomy 1:32-33, "Yet for all that you did not believe the Lord your God, who went in the way before you to search out a place for you to pitch your tents, to show you the way you should go, in the fire by night and in the cloud by day." Because of their unbelief, God had sworn that none of that generation would see the good land, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. Moses told them in Deuteronomy 1:37-38, "The Lord was also angry with me for your sakes, saying, 'Even you shall not go in there. Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall go in there. Encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it.'" Moses recounted their victories over Sihon king of Heshbon and Og king of Bashan, giving the conquered territories to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh. He charged Joshua at that time, saying in Deuteronomy 3:21-22, "Your eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings. So will the Lord do to all the kingdoms to which you cross over. You must not fear them, for the Lord your God himself fights for you." Moses pleaded with the Lord to let him cross over and see the good land, but God refused because of the people's sake. The Lord told him in Deuteronomy 3:27, "Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift your eyes toward the west, the north, the south, and the east. Behold it with your eyes, for you shall not cross over this Jordan." He urged the people to keep God's commandments carefully, saying in Deuteronomy 4:6-8, "Therefore be careful to observe them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples who will hear all these statutes and say, 'Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.' For what great nation is there that has God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us, for whatever reason we may call upon him? And what great nation is there that has such statutes and righteous judgments as are in all this law?" Moses called all Israel and said to them, "Hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your hearing today, that you may learn them and be careful to observe them." He reminded them that the Lord had made a covenant with them at Horeb, speaking to them face to face from the midst of the fire on the mountain. Moses restated the 10 Commandments, beginning in Deuteronomy 5:6-7. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. He continued with the prohibitions against idols, taking God's name in vain, and the command to keep the Sabbath day holy. The commandment to honor father and mother was given, that your days may be long, and that it may be well with you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. The prohibitions against murder, adultery, stealing, false witness, and coveting completed the 10 words. When the people heard the voice of God from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain burned with fire, they were afraid and asked Moses to speak with God for them. Moses told them in Deuteronomy 5:29, "Oh, that they had such a heart in them, that they would fear me and always keep all my commandments, that it might be well with them and with their children forever." Moses then delivered one of the most important passages in all Scripture. He declared in Deuteronomy 6:4-9, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets. Between your eyes you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." Moses warned them about the danger of forgetting God when they entered the land. In Deuteronomy 6:10-12 he said, "So it shall be, when the Lord your God brings you into the land of which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you large and beautiful cities which you did not build, houses full of all good things which you did not fill, hewn out wells which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant, when you have eaten and are full. Then beware lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage." Moses told the people that when the Lord brought them into the land, he would cast out 7 nations greater and mightier than they: the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. He commanded in Deuteronomy 7:2-4, "And when the Lord your God delivers them over to you, you shall conquer them and utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show mercy to them, nor shall you make marriages with them. You shall not give your daughter to their son, nor take their daughter for your son. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. Instead, they were to destroy the pagan altars, break down their sacred pillars, cut down their wooden images, and burn their carved images with fire." Moses explained in Deuteronomy 7:6, "For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples on the face of the earth." God had not chosen them because they were more numerous than other peoples, for they were the least of all peoples. Rather, as Moses declared in Deuteronomy 7:8-9, "But because the Lord loves you, and because he would keep the oath which he swore to your fathers, the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh king of Egypt. Therefore know that the Lord your God, he is God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and mercy for 1,000 generations with those who love him and keep his commandments." Moses warned them not to fear these nations, but to remember what the Lord had done to Pharaoh and all Egypt. He promised in Deuteronomy 7:20-21, "Moreover, the Lord your God will send the hornet among them until those who are left, who hide themselves, from you are destroyed. You shall not be terrified of them, for the Lord your God, the great and awesome God, is among you." He reminded them of God's care during their 40 years in the wilderness, saying in Deuteronomy 8:2-4, "And you shall remember that the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. So he humbled you, allowed you to hunger, and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man shall not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. Your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Moses gave a stern warning about the danger of pride and self-sufficiency. In Deuteronomy 8:17-18 he said, "Then you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day." He reminded them of the golden calf incident and how he had interceded for them. Moses declared in Deuteronomy 9:4-6, "Do not think in your heart, after the Lord your God has cast them out before you, saying, 'Because of my righteousness the Lord has brought me in to possess this land.' But it is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driving them out from before you. It is not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you go in to possess their land, but because of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you, and that he may fulfill the word which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore understand that the Lord your God is not giving you this good land to possess because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people." Moses gave specific instructions for worship in the Promised Land. He commanded in Deuteronomy 12:2-3, "You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations which you shall dispossess served their gods, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. And you shall destroy their altars, break their sacred pillars, and burn their wooden images with fire. You shall cut down the carved images of their gods, and destroy their names from that place. Instead, they were to worship only at the place the Lord would choose." Moses said in Deuteronomy 12:5-7, "But you shall seek the place where the Lord your God chooses out of all your tribes to put his name for his dwelling place. And there you shall go. There you shall take your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the heave offerings of your hand, your vowed offerings, your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice in all to which you have put your hand, you and your households, in which the Lord your God has blessed you." Moses warned against following false prophets or dreamers who would try to turn them away from the Lord. In Deuteronomy 13:1-3, he said, "If there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, of which he spoke to you, saying, 'Let us go after other gods, which you have not known, and let us serve them,' you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul." God established dietary laws, distinguishing between clean and unclean animals. The people could eat animals that both chew the cud and have cloven hooves, fish with fins and scales, and certain birds, but many creatures were forbidden. Moses instituted the year of release, commanding in Deuteronomy 15:1-2, "At the end of every 7 years you shall grant a release of debts, and this is the form of the release. Every creditor who has lent anything to his neighbor shall release it. He shall not require it of his neighbor or his brother, because it is called the Lord's release." He also commanded kindness to the poor, saying in Deuteronomy 15:7-8, "If there is among you a poor man of your brethren, within any of the gates in your land, which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother, but you shall open your hand wide to him, and willingly lend him sufficient for his need, whatever he needs. Hebrew servants were to be released in the 7th year, and when released, they were not to be sent away empty-handed. Moses commanded in Deuteronomy 15:13-14, "And when you send him away free from you, you shall not let him go away empty-handed. You shall supply him liberally from your flock, from your threshing floor, and from your winepress. From what the Lord your God has blessed you with, you shall give to him." God established 3 annual feasts: the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. Moses declared in Deuteronomy 16:16-17, "3 times a year all your males shall appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses, at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, at the Feast of Weeks, and at the Feast of Tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you." Moses gave instructions about future leadership in Israel. When the people would desire a king like other nations, God had specific requirements. In Deuteronomy 17:14-15, Moses said, "When you come to the land which the Lord your God is giving, you and possess it and dwell in it and say, 'I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me.' You shall surely set a king over you whom the Lord your God chooses. One from among your brethren you shall set as king over you. You may not set a foreigner over you who is not your brother." The king was not to multiply horses, wives, or silver and gold for himself. Most importantly, he was to write for himself a copy of the law and read it all the days of his life. As commanded in Deuteronomy 17:19-20, "And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, and be careful to observe all the words of this law and these statutes, that his heart may not be lifted above his brethren, that he may not turn aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, and that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel." Moses explained the inheritance of the Levites, saying in Deuteronomy 18:1-2, "The priests, the Levites, all the tribe of Levi, shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire and his portion. Therefore they shall have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he promised them." The people were strictly forbidden from practicing the occult arts of the surrounding nations. Moses commanded in Deuteronomy 18:10-12, "There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you." Instead of seeking guidance from such sources, God promised to raise up prophets from among them. Moses declared in Deuteronomy 18:15, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren. Him you shall hear." This prophet would speak God's words, and whoever would not hear his words would be held accountable. Moses gave a test for distinguishing true prophets from false ones. In Deuteronomy 18:21-22 he said, "And if you say in your heart, 'How shall we know the word which the Lord has not spoken?'" When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him. When the Lord cut off the nations and the Israelites displaced them, they were to set apart 3 cities of refuge in their land. Moses explained in Deuteronomy 19:4-6, "And this is the case of the manslayer who flees there, that he may live. Whoever kills his neighbor unintentionally, not having hated him in time past, as when a man goes to the woods with his neighbor to cut timber, and his hand swings a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor so that he dies. He shall flee to one of these cities and live. lest the avenger of blood, while his heart is hot, pursue the manslayer and overtake him, because the way is long, and kill him, though he was not deserving of death, since he had not hated the victim in time past. If the Lord enlarged their territory as he had promised, they were to add 3 more cities. But if someone hated his neighbor, lay in wait for him, attacked him, and killed him, then fled to one of these cities, the elders of his city were to send and bring him back to be delivered to the avenger of blood. Moses established the law of witnesses, stating in Deuteronomy 19:15, "One witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses the matter shall be established." If a false witness rose against someone, both parties were to stand before the Lord, before the priests and judges. If the witness was found to be false, he would receive the punishment he had intended for the accused. When going to war against enemies, the priests were to speak to the people and say in Deuteronomy 23:4, "Hear, O Israel, today you go out to battle against your enemies. Do not let your heart faint, do not be afraid, and do not tremble or be terrified because of them. For the Lord your God is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you." The officers were to dismiss from battle anyone who had built a new house but not dedicated it, planted a vineyard but not eaten of it, was betrothed to a woman but not married her, or was fearful and faint-hearted. When besieging a city, they were first to proclaim peace to it. If it accepted peace, all its people would become forced laborers. If it refused, they would besiege it, and when the Lord delivered it into their hands, they would kill every male with the sword. However, regarding the cities of the peoples whose land God was giving them, they were to save nothing alive that breathed, but utterly destroy the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, so these nations wouldn't teach them to follow their abominations. Moses gave laws for unsolved murders. When someone was found slain in the land, and it was not known who killed him, the elders and judges were to measure the distance to the surrounding cities. The elders of the nearest city would take a heifer that had never worked or pulled a yoke, bring it to a valley with running water, and break the heifer's neck there. The elders would wash their hands over the heifer and declare in Deuteronomy 21:7-8, "Our hands have not shed this blood, nor have our eyes seen it. Provide atonement, O Lord, for your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, and do not lay innocent blood to the charge of your people Israel." Thus, the guilt of innocent blood would be purged from among them. Moses gave detailed laws governing social relationships and moral conduct. If someone found his brother's ox or sheep going astray, he was not to ignore it but bring it back. The same applied to donkeys, clothing, or anything lost. They were to help their brother recover it. Women were not to wear men's clothing, nor men wear women's clothing, for this was an abomination to the Lord. If someone found a bird's nest, with the mother sitting on young ones or eggs, they could take the young but had to let the mother go free, that it may be well with you and that you may prolong your days. Marriage laws were strictly regulated. If a man took a wife and later claimed she was not a virgin, her parents could bring evidence to the city elders. If the man's charges were false, he would be fined and could never divorce her. But if the charges were true, the woman would be stoned for bringing disgrace on her father's house. Adultery was punishable by death for both parties. If a man was found lying with a woman married to a husband, both were to die. If a man found a betrothed virgin in the city and lay with her, both were to be stoned, she because she didn't cry out in the city, and he because he humiliated his neighbor's wife. Certain people were excluded from the assembly of the Lord. As stated in Deuteronomy 23:1-3, "He who is emasculated by crushing or mutilation shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. One of illegitimate birth shall not enter the assembly of the Lord." Even to the 10th generation, none of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord. An Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. Even to the 10th generation, none of their descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever. Moses commanded kindness to escaped slaves, saying in Deuteronomy 23:15-16, "You shall not give back to his master the slave who has escaped from his master to you. He may dwell with you in your midst, in the place which he chooses within one of your gates, where it seems best to him. You shall not oppress him." Interest was not to be charged to fellow Israelites, though it could be charged to foreigners. Vows made to the Lord had to be kept promptly. When entering a neighbor's vineyard, one could eat grapes but not take any away. In a grain field, one could pluck heads of grain by hand but not use a sickle. Divorce laws were established. If a man found some uncleanness in his wife and gave her a certificate of divorce and she became another man's wife, her first husband could not take her back if the second husband divorced her or died, for she had been defiled. Moses commanded the people to remember what Amalek did to them on their way out of Egypt, how he attacked the stragglers when they were faint and weary, not fearing God. When the Lord gave them rest from their enemies in the promised land, they were to blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. In chapters 27-30, Moses described the ceremony that would take place when they entered the land. 6 tribes would stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people, and 6 tribes on Mount Ebal to pronounce curses. The Levites would proclaim curses upon various sins, and all the people would say Amen to each one. Moses set before them the choice between life and death, blessing and cursing. He declared in Deuteronomy 30:19-20, "I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live, that you may love the Lord your God, that you may obey his voice, and that you may cling to him, for he is your life and the length of your days, and that you may dwell in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them." Moses continued speaking to all Israel, saying in Deuteronomy 31:1-2, "I am 120 years old today. I can no longer go out and come in. Also the Lord has said to me, you shall not cross over this Jordan." He assured them that the Lord their God would cross over before them and destroy the nations, and Joshua would cross over before them as the Lord had said. Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel in Deuteronomy 31:7-8, "Be strong and of good courage, for you must go with this people to the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed." Moses wrote this law and delivered it to the priests and all the elders of Israel. He commanded that every 7 years, during the Feast of Tabernacles in the year of release, they should read this law before all Israel in their hearing, so that they might hear and learn and fear the Lord their God. The Lord told Moses that his death was near and called him and Joshua to the tabernacle of meeting. God warned that after Moses' death, the people would rise and play the harlot with foreign gods, forsaking him and breaking his covenant. Therefore Moses was to write a song and teach it to the children of Israel as a witness against them. Moses spoke the words of this song in the hearing of all the assembly of Israel. The song recounted God's faithfulness and Israel's future unfaithfulness, beginning in Deuteronomy 32:3-4. "For I proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. He is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are justice, a God of truth and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he." Before his death, Moses blessed the tribes of Israel. He began his blessing in Deuteronomy 33:2-3, saying, "The Lord came from Sinai and dawned on them from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. From his right hand came a fiery law for them. Yes, he loves the people. All his saints are in your hand. They sit down at your feet. Everyone receives your words. Moses blessed each tribe individually, speaking of their future inheritance and role. For Judah, he said, "Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him to his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and may you be a help against his enemies." For Benjamin, "The beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him who shelters him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders." Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. The Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho as far as Zoar. The Lord said to him in Deuteronomy 34:4, "This is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there." So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. He buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his grave to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. The children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Now Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. The book concludes in Deuteronomy 34:10-12. "But since then there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, in all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, before all his servants, and in all his land, and by all that mighty power and all the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of all Israel." If this journey through the Pentateuch has blessed you and helped you understand God's word better, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future biblical content. Share this video with your friends and family who might benefit from learning these foundational stories of faith. Your support helps us continue creating content that brings the Bible to life in simple, engaging ways. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the first 5 books of the Bible. Until next time, keep studying God's Word and growing in your faith.